Avast, ye mateys, it's me, Kevin Smith.
Jason Mewes.
Have you ever wanted to get lost on the high seas with Jay and Silent Bob? Well, now you're going to have your chance. Go to jayandsilentbobcruiseaskew.com right now and sign up for Jay and Silent Bob's Cruise Askew. We're going to hit the high seas. Where are we going, Gilligan?
We're going to be going to Miami, to Nassau, Bahamas on the Norwegian Pearl.
Doesn't that sound great? It's going to be me and him. It's going to be all of our friends. We'll be doing live podcasts. There's going to be a movies on board. There's going to be a View Askew museum. Great times to be had by all, ladies and gentlemen. Tickets available right now. Go buy them, man. And if you sign up before June 23rd, it's only $100 down per cabin. What are you waiting for, man? Get lost at sea with Jay and Silent Bob.
Let's do it.
Hit me!
Episode 358.
System activate.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins. It's a tech podcast. But we are a ton cooler than your typical geek.
You guys rock.
And now, here's Will.
No one listens to the radio. I wasn't even listening. I was listening to podcasts. Podcasts are great. Radio's boring.
I love that sound drop, but I'm not even sure. Is radio even a thing anymore? I sure don't know, but it's not a question I'm looking to answer today. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of NetHeads. My name is Will. Sans Trent today, but do not worry. You do not just have to look at this ugly mug or hear only this voice, because we have a very special presentation today, a very special episode of NetHeads. Why? Because we get to interview the people behind the scenes from the Max original series, Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai'd. That's right, it's a new Gremlins property. But wait, what is it? Is it a continuation of the movies? No, it's even better than that. Why is it even better than that? One, it's a cartoon. Cartoon, you can do whatever you want in a cartoon. You can get away with anything you want in a cartoon. You can create whatever you want in a cartoon. So that is a great aspect. If you remember the original Gremlins movie the way I remember the original Gremlins movie, you also remember that it is a movie that is both steeped in cuteness and wholesomeness, and it's got a dark side. It's got a dark edge. It's a little bit creepy. Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai'd taps right into that energy. And best of all, it is a prequel, and it is a prequel that I am happy to report delivers. How does it deliver? It's the past, okay? So we're in 1920 Shanghai. Not only that, but do you know who meets Gizmo in this? Mr. Wing. But it's not Mr. Wing, the old guy from the original Gremlins movie who's got Gizmo. No, it's a young Sam Wing who meets Gizmo in this story. Not only that, if you remember the original Gremlins, you're like, oh, hey, wait a second. The 3 rules. I know the 3 rules. Keep them out of sunlight. Don't get them wet. Never feed them after midnight. Guess what? There's a 4th rule. Oh my gosh. You got to see the show though, if you want to know what it is. And I will say that this show premiered back when HBO Max became Max. They dropped the first 2 episodes. They've been dropping 2 episodes every week since then. And right now I'm bringing this to you where you can go ahead and binge almost all of the show. And either this week or the next week is going to be the season finale, not the series finale, because I think I read somewhere they're actually getting a season 2. So your cheese isn't going to be left out in the wind if you like this one, if you know what I'm saying. Not only that, guys, all of this stuff is great. All of this is wonderful. And if you're a big Gremlins fan, this is all good news. But what's even better are the people that we get to talk to today. We get to talk to Tze Chun. I always get that one wrong, who is the executive producer, writer, and showrunner of Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai'd, who I wish I had spent more time talking to. But he was my first interview, and I panicked. So my bad on that one. Not only do we get to talk to him, we get to talk to AJ LoCascio. God, I get his. What is with the names on this show? There's nothing. It's just names. Well, you just can't speak. AJ LoCascio, who provides the voice of Gizmo in this one. I don't know. I keep getting hung up on the words Gremlins and Gizmo. Not good to do when you're talking about a program named Gizmo or named Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai'd. So we got to talk to those people. Then we get to talk to BD Wong. BD Wong, TV, movie legend, BD Wong. Oh my gosh. And if you don't know who BD Wong is, where you been? Now, these are all great names, right? This is all good stuff. The icing on this Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai cake, for me, the whole reason why I got into this, the whole reason I'm glad I like Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai is because I got to talk to Disney legend, voice of Moana, star of ER, star of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., star of the Book of Boba Fett and special guest in The Mandalorian, Ming-Na. I mean, this is an opportunity I could not pass up, but it is okay that I did it because I'm telling you right now, Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai is an enjoyable watch. It is a great watch if you're just an adult who liked the Gremlins movies. It's a great watch if you got kids, okay? And it does. It's a little bit fun. It's a little bit dark. The stakes seem high. The stakes seem dangerous. But in the end, it all works out. So you want to go ahead and be sure to check it out. Get yourself Max if you don't already have Max. Binge this over the weekend because either this week or next week, season finale. So without further ado, let's go to a month back when I got to talk to these fine folks, and we'll kick it off with Tze Chun. So I just want to ask, what is it that drew you to sort of relaunching a project into the Gremlins universe?
You know, there have been conversations between Amblin and Warner Brothers and Spielberg and Sam Register about a Gremlins animated prequel, and conversations about it taking place in 1920s China with a young Mr. Wing. And I came in to meet on it, and I was immediately just so excited about it because Gremlins was a formative movie for me growing up. You know, laughed, cried, terrified. But I also grew up watching a lot of Amblin movies. And so my take on it when I came in was doing it as a big, epic action adventure story that had a little treasure hunting, but also still maintained the tone of the original Gremlins movies, which is funny and scary and especially very, very weird.
The movies were also a part of my very formative years as well. So what is it that you were able to bring to this prequel that people that are watching this with their kids or their grandkids that may have been fans of the original films that they may want to keep an eye out for?
So we certainly have a lot of fun Easter eggs for fans of the original movies. I mean, everybody in the writer's room, our crew, our cast, we're all fans of the movies. And it was really fun to, make a show that we knew as fans of the original movies that would appeal to us, and to also appeal to, kids and teenagers, and something that the entire family can watch together. For me personally, I love that I get to introduce American audiences to Chinese mythology and spirits and creatures and monsters, which are also kind of like the Mogwai. Like, they have rules, they're scary, but they're also really funny, and they all have their own big personalities. And so if you're new to kind of Chinese spirits and creatures, I hope this is fun and scary for you as well.
And how does it feel having this come out during API Heritage Month?
I mean, it's our month. Let's get it.
One of the things too, now that the animation space itself has really expanded and had leaps and bounds, how was it you came to the balance or the decision, if you will, on the animation visual style of the series?
It's really interesting animation because I had never worked in animation before, but I worked in comics. And what I really loved about comics was, obviously there's time and budget, but you still can kind of be boundless to a certain degree with your imagination. And the fact that we were able to travel all through China in the first season of the show, have a different location, hundreds of spirits and creatures and monsters, was really wonderful. And, speaking of early Amblin movies, movies like Raiders and Goonies, they're so visual. The opening 10, 15 minutes of Goonies, the camera really tells that story along with the music. And same with Gremlins. And we wanted to make sure that this show was as cinematic as those movies that we grew up watching were going to be. We had a lot of great partners. Dan Krall, who was our supervising producer and did a lot of the early, kind of tone pieces and sketches, and had the idea that, he wanted the show to look like a making of concept art book. And we all wanted it to be very painterly. And that's why we're doing something that's kind of like, this is very inside baseball. I'm so sorry, like
Quite
2.5D, where the characters are CG, but they still have a lot of like organic look to them. Spirited Away was a huge influence on this, and wanted to capture that really handmade quality, even while we were making, a big epic adventure for Max.
Also, you're no stranger to working within mythology, especially, some of you worked on Once Upon a Time, for example. How did that past work help inform you in the creative decisions you made with this show?
So, Once Upon a Time in Gotham, both of those shows, I was working within a framework of, existing mythology. And, one of the things that Brendan and I like to say is that we're kind of like fan people first and like writers second. And so whenever we're working on something, we look at it as like, what would we as a fan really like to see? What is the what areas do we want to go to? What type of like things do we want to tease out? And that was one of the things that was so exciting about expanding the Mogwai mythology in this series. The original movies, you meet Mr. Wing, you know the rules, but that's pretty much all you get. And it was really fun to be able to delve into like a fourth rule, adding that, and then also explaining like, where do the Mogwai come from? Why do they exist? And all against this backdrop was really, really fun.
One of the elements of this story that I found really interesting is that we meet Mr. Wing as a child, which of course leads us to the question, and I'm assuming answered in the series, just how long do Mogwai live?
We definitely get into a lot of the rules. I mean, one of the first things we did actually in the writer's room was we wrote down all the questions that we had from after watching the original movies. And we tried to answer the ones that we felt would be fun for the audience to know about. And so we certainly answered the question of how long do Mogwai live? And we get to a little of the litigation about, what do the rules really mean when you get down to the nuts and bolts of them.
That's funny, too, considering the deep kind of discussion that happened in the second movie regarding that whole midnight rules situation. What happens if you're in a different time zone, et cetera, et cetera.
And we definitely do our best to explain it, hopefully.
What were some of the important elements you really wanted to bring to this series? Some of the carryovers, not necessarily from the Gremlins movies, but the important things you wanted to establish in this sort of new mythology of an existing thing.
We wanted to go wide with the scope, make it epic. And also I wanted to introduce a lot of the stories that I grew up hearing about, whether that's, locations or history or spirits and creatures, things that actually like scared me when I was younger, and stories that my parents told me. But beyond that, we just felt that this was a kind of untapped mythology that we could really expand upon and do it in a series.
Well, I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into it, especially considering Gremlins was one of the original kind of new mythology movies that I just thoroughly got entranced by. And of course, naturally, really look forward to the second movie once it came out as well. I'm looking forward to the same series as well, especially given that you're able to provide us more answers to those mysterious elements that we just didn't get answered from the first movie. So really, thank you for your time and effort on this project.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really excited for everyone to see what the writers and the cast and crew put together. I mean, I could not be prouder of this team.
Well, and express my appreciation to them as well. And personally as well, I'm really looking forward to being able to share this series with my daughter. And hopefully that leads into the question of seeing the Gremlins movies themselves, because at 8 years old, I haven't quite ventured into those with her yet.
There's definitely one scene, if she has a certain perception about Santa Claus, that you may want to skip.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I do have to do that from time to time. Any last messages you wanted to say to people regarding the series?
No, we're just really, really excited for people to see it. We've been working on it for a really long time. And if you're a fan of the original Gremlins movies, please share far and wide.
Awesome. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. This background is awesome, by the way.
Thank you. AJ, such a pleasure to speak with you. Who would have thunk it, huh?
You've looked at my IMDb.
All right. Such an honor to talk to you today, especially considering you are taking over you're filling some big shoes in your role in Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai. Why didn't you go ahead and tell everybody the character you're playing?
Gizmo.
How does it feel to be taking over such a, I just want to say, identifiable voice and role from Howie Mandel?
I don't know if I'm necessarily taking over. I'm filling in, for now, I guess. But it's surreal. Very, very, very surreal. When I originally got the audition and did the animation test, I didn't imagine there'd be an actual series or anything that would include me. I just assumed they'd get Howie Mandel or someone who's much more famous to be doing this. So it's very weird, and I'm very honored.
Now, you're no stranger to providing the voice of talent, filling in, if you will.
Yes.
But what is it that you do? How do you, what's your approach when you know you're going to be filling in for another identifiable voice?
It mostly just listening. I tend to grab as many clips as I can from the internet and just listen to them over and over and over again, especially in my car. So I have some it's a horrible idea for me to put my music on shuffle if I'm by myself or I'm with, because you never know if suddenly a Gizmo reference will pop up, or Harrison Ford or Michael J. Fox or Chris Pratt or Tom Holland or whoever it is I have some Tom Hollands that are really awful where it's just him going, yelling. And I'm like, I got to take those off my phone, So that's mostly my process, just listening and repeating and repeating, and then having my girlfriend say more nasally or down here or whatever. So
good to know.
Process.
Good to know your playlist is a trip through Crazy Town.
Psychotic.
Given that Gizmo is kind of a voice that is of a higher pitch, and I would imagine vocally it's slightly more challenging than trying to do a lower Han Solo or kind of a mid-range Marty McFly. What were some of the challenges in performing this role, given the particular range the character's in?
It's a voice that I've done for years just for fun, to just be like, it's just something that exists. So it wasn't much thought when I got the auditions, because it was like, oh yeah, I do this voice all the time. So I listened to Howie and the movies as much as I could, but it was like, all right, I've been doing this for a long time. So it felt very natural. The biggest challenge though, I think, was singing. It sounds to me like when you listen to the original Gremlins, there's some pitch modulation going on with the song, and we didn't use that as far as I can tell in this show. So trying to match that as much as I can on my end, it's hard. It's like trying to hit those notes is a challenge. So that was the biggest thing, and then doing that over and over again for different episodes and different reasons was one of the harder things, because it's high up there.
Considering the movie was from my very formidable years, I am shocked that I did not remember the Mogwai song, his little comfortable cooing song that he does when he's happy.
His little lullaby. I call it a lullaby. I don't know whether it would be considered that, but
fitting, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think in coming into this role? What was the part of it that you saw that you were most excited about?
I think just the tenderness or the sweetness of Gizmo. I was really excited to sort of see and play that out, because he's got such a soft, cute side, and that was one of the things in the auditions, of him being snuggly or him being sweet and comforting. That was really fun and cute. So I don't know why, but that was something I gravitated towards, and also his kind of sassiness. He's got a bit of attitude and doesn't really. He knows what he's doing. He's, as far as I'm aware, an adult, Mogwai. So he's got his own opinions. And so little moments where he gets a bit, can be cranky or talk back, it was really exciting and fun.
Considering he doesn't necessarily speak a direct language, if you will.
Yeah.
Were there other inspirations from the animal kingdom you may have taken from in providing some of those elements? Oh, okay. Well, that was quick.
No, not at all. I mean, we did. All the scripts are written in English, so it's like Chewbacca, where you see, Peter Mayhew being like, "Look at this old geezer," But it's instead of me saying it on set or whatever, I would see the English, and then we'd sort of discuss like, okay, how close do you want this to feel? And I would basically do my own version of it in sort of gibberish or Mogwai'd, where if he was like, I don't want to go there, I'd be like, there's some sort of, it feels similar, but if you don't know the English words, you don't really know what it is. So it's kind of like sanding down the text in a way.
Last question. Given that this is releasing during AAPI month, were there certain elements from the scripts and the story that were educational for you and more along the lines of Chinese culture?
A lot of the lore, you'll see some stuff in the show that's very, so many of the monsters and stuff I think are very unfamiliar creatures to, us American folk, and it's refreshing to see things I've never seen before. I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's not this monster, it's their own thing that's new, and they're found a way to make it sort of modern and incorporated into the story in the same way that like any story with monsters, like we've seen 1,000 stories of dragons and stuff like that, or dragons is probably not the best example considering their history with dragons, but you know what I'm saying, where it's like Yetis or whatever it is. I don't know. What's an American monster? Sasquatch, sure. But there's so much of that I was unfamiliar with. And so getting to learn about that and was really exciting and interesting, and something that feels like it should have happened long ago. So it's cool to sort of walk through a fantasy world that's not Tolkien, but similar vibe, but with Chinese lore.
Well, I can definitely tell you, as a person who has the original movie committed to memory, and I myself threw out my voice a few times trying to mumble like Gizmo just to say that I loved Billy. I'd like to tell you that you definitely gave a great performance that was very worthy of the original, and if not exceeding in many areas. So thank you for bringing that character and voice to Gizmo, because he's a character that's beloved by some, and this series will be a gateway for my daughter into the Gremlins world before I dare go into the actual movies with her.
That's crazy. Well, thank you so much, dude. Yeah, it's very surreal and an honor, and as a kid who grew up with Gremlins, it's really weird. I say surreal and I say honor, but really what I mean is it's bizarre. I'm like, wow, okay, you sure? Yeah, thank you so much, dude.
My pleasure.
Hey, man, let me just jump in here for a sec to remind you, jayandsilentbob.com, ladies and gentlemen. You want to buy anything Clerks related, anything Jay and Silent Bob related, anything Kevin Smith related, go to jayandsilentbob.com. Now back to the show.
First of all, I just have to say thank you very much. I'm very honored to be speaking with you today, because I am amazed when I reflect back on all of my entertainment ingesting, just how many different elements you have been present in. So,
wow.
Honored to speak to you. Well, thanks. I mean, if you think about it, from Father of the Bride to SVU to Mr. Robot, et cetera, et cetera. It's and such a wide breadth of experience there is amazing. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I just have to ask, first and foremost, what are your earliest memories of Gremlins?
Oh, they are, I think I've never seen anything that was cute and scary and cute and, threatening and dark and cute. And this magical combination of qualities is very unique to Gremlins, I think, and kind of sets the tone for anything that came after it, that the filmmakers or the writers allowed themselves to kind of cross things together. Usually these territories are very separate, or had been, and so that was part of a new trend, I think, of making things much more interesting by combining these two things, and much more disarming and all of that. So I remember that, and I remember, and of course, it had this Spielberg, kind of stamp on it. And I remember, those are the things that I remember. I'd be being delighted by it and thinking, God, what a hoot. But also that's like to be taken seriously at the same time. I don't think I can think of anything that's quite like it, actually.
And what drew you to the particular role in this new project, Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai'd?
Well, I'm one of those people that at the time, I will tell you, at the time when Gremlins first came out, I was one of those people. I was starting to become a young actor, and I had great aspirations and a great aspiration for the industry to be more diverse and have better representation for my people, including my identity as an Asian American. And so there's a kind of a full circle feeling of this origin story and this prequel of Gremlins to be really Chinese. And for it to be really Chinese in the most organic way, to explain this mysterious character through their background in Shanghai in the 1920s. And it makes complete sense. It's not a forced issue at all. And yet it's very organic to the story and allows for a whole community of actors to represent themselves and to tell their own story, as it were, or tell, an Asian-themed story. And I think that's very valuable. I think it's very valuable because it's also geared towards kids. And so there's an intergenerational viewing of this that is a great opportunity for families. And that's when we are able to reach people about representation and for them to understand and for people to actually see themselves. Of course, that's what representation is really all about. So all of this stuff is like win, 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 win for me. The character itself, I always like to kind of do something that's somehow not something I've done before. And so I haven't really done a character like this particularly, kind of like a person who's kind of gets dragged into a whole bunch of kind of stressful situations and really is in over their head a little bit and kind of is part of the co-parenting team for this kid, and the mom and the kid are rather a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more bolder than he is, but he's kind of wants to be the voice of reason, and he's never wrong about the danger or what's in store, what could be in store. And so that dynamic is fun for me. I like that. And also working with the actors. The actors, it's a community of actors. I know them very well. I'm very fond of them. James Hong was an incredible role model for all of us, with a real legacy and a real career to be envied. And so there's something kind of family feeling about it.
What was it you felt was important to bring to Sam's father's character, Han Wing? What was it that, in your own experiences, you sort of brought into the role?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that he is the husband of a strong woman. And I think that's very wonderfully written and wonderfully presented, and a great opportunity for a particular kind of relationship. And he's never of the mindset that his wife should not be strong or that her strength is a liability to her. It is in fact a very positive asset. And so he celebrates that part of her. And at the same time, he's terrified of it, I think. And I think that's actually modern and three-dimensional and interesting and not shallow.
Considering this is coming out during API Heritage Month, what do you think are some of the important cultural lessons that can be learned from the series?
Oh, great. Well, specifically, it's really quite well researched. It's got in it the folklore and mythology of long past, ancient Chinese that our grandparents passed on down to us. I have a statue of Guanggung in my entryway. Guanggung, if you buy a statue of Guanggung, it's supposed to guard your front door. So I have one of those, and there are a lot of characters that are real, characters. So from I don't know which enlightening standpoint, you can learn a little bit about some of these real Chinese cultural icons that are in it. But I think more than that, it's an intergenerational. It's like a real family project, And it's part of that trend, which is a great trend now that we're in this deep in popular culture where generations of us grew up on something and want to pass it on to our kids. But before you actually pass Gremlins onto your kids, perhaps you would sit down and watch Legend of the Mogwai'd, because it's a great gateway to Gremlins. And so that's what I think is really the valuable kind of AAPI kind of thing, is that there's representation in it. And if you are an Asian American family, then you can sit down and you can see yourself on the screen. And that's kind of really cool. And that is certainly something that I didn't experience when I was a kid very much at all. So for that to be in existence is powerful to me. And so those two things together, I'd say were really, really positive aspects and make it well worth the reason that the show might be airing during the month of May.
Well, the original Gremlins came out during I think the appropriate term is formative years, not to say a long time ago when I was a kid. I have an 8-year-old, and so I've been unsure about the original Gremlins series. However, this will be our starting point for it. So
exactly. It's fantastic.
I'll be sharing Gremlins with her that way, and then we'll go on from there.
I kind of wish, there is kind of animated Jurassic content. But to me, I see it kind of the same way, because the first Jurassic Park is a pretty intense movie, and so are the Gremlins movies. So anything that can kind of it's well thought on the producer's part, to bring people into the fold, and I love it. I do think that these kids will remember it and then pass it on to their kids later on.
Exactly. That has been my daughter's gateway, because there are the Netflix originals, but we're not here to talk about them. What's the one thing in this performance, maybe wasn't necessarily something strong on paper, but you were surprised when you saw? What's one part of the performance that you're really looking forward to people seeing?
I think that this particular character is a kind of character that I love to see. And I think other people love to see this character who is like, oh no, am I the only one that's freaking out here? Because everyone seems to be so serious and great, and everyone's gung-ho on this crazy thing that we're about to do. I'm not so keen on it. And so there's one person kind of raising their hand, and then the reason why we take delight in them, because they're right. They're totally right. And they kind of represent us in a certain way as we're watching it, if it's dangerous or whatever. And I love that character. And I haven't played that character or that particular, played that particular function in a project. And so I always try to find the thing that makes it unique for me. And for me, it is that. It's I'm the guy who is always going, no, but wait, and oh no, here I am. I've got, pyrotechnics or craziness all around me, and I'm participating in it. And how did I get here? And why did you drag me into this? And then afterwards, we're really proud of ourselves. It's just great. I like that.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I can't wait to see the full series. And again, honored to speak with you today, sir.
Oh my gosh, thanks. And hello to everybody. Thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody out there and their support.
Well, look who called in the cavalry. Ming-Na, first of all, honored and humbled to be speaking to you today. But also, I just have to ask, given your resume, is there will you not be stopped until you achieve a presence in every single sci-fi and fantasy product?
That is a good goal to have. Yes. I have been so fortunate. And by the way, hi, Will.
Pleasure.
I am one of the luckiest nerd girls out there, just living this amazing, fantasy of my childhood, dreams. I used to remember being in my bedroom and pretending that I was the female version of Han Solo, and now I'm Fennec Shand, which I use a lot of those rogue kind of qualities for her. And I don't know, I just, maybe. How many more franchises are there?
You know what? They keep building universes out of projects, so I think the sky is the limit still.
I will keep on keeping on.
Excellent. What was it that drew you to this particular project?
Well, I have loved the film when it first came out. I think I was a college student, and he's, just massive fan of Steven Spielberg, and anything that had his name on it, I would go see. And I actually, now that I've been talking more about it, I remember going to see the movie, but because it was titled Gremlins, I didn't realize that it was about the Chinese, folklore of these mythical characters called Mogwai'd. And these are things that, I've grown up with, these stories. So that was fascinating to me. And then the shock value of it being such a dark comedy, which Steven Spielberg is so good at doing. And so I've been a massive fan. And now how wonderful that they're taking it and giving Mr. Wing his own origin story.
Speaking as such, based on your experience with the past movies, even though this is getting into a part of the story we've never seen, what were some of the important elements for you in playing the character of Mr. Wing's mother?
It's, it could have gone both ways, because it's Shanghai in the 1920s. And you would think that women would have a more, subordinate role, like just being the housewife or doing menial tasks. But the fact that they made her be equal to her husband, Fong Wing is intelligent. She has mastered Chinese medicine. And so she's extremely knowledgeable about these things that could turn into magical potions. And I just love that she is, sort of like me. I mean, I'm a mom. I know that I need to protect my kids. I know that, I could be a bit bossy when it comes to my husband. But ultimately, there's love there, and I've been taking care of my mom the last 2 months. And so sometimes the child becomes the parent of their parent. So that's how she treats grandpa. So all those elements that are in my personal life, it was really easy to put into Fong.
Now, obviously, aside from action sequences being a lot easier, what are some of the things that you enjoy about vocal acting versus physical before camera acting?
Oh, everything. Like, one of the things that I always say I'm most jealous of career-wise are the actors from The Simpsons, because they have a gig that lasts over 2 decades. And with voice acting, you don't have to worry about how you look. You don't have to worry about if you're feeling bloated that day. You don't have to worry about wearing heels that are going to hurt. And it's very creative. You go into a room and it's just you and your voice, and you can be as big or as little, as maniacal, depending on what characters you play. You could do extremes with your voice. And it's so freeing as an actor to just be able to lay down a track of, like, let's say a particular line, and you do it 3 different ways. It's almost like a great acting exercise, and you could kind of manipulate and alter your voice based on whatever you're feeling at that moment.
Well, I know you're no stranger to vocal acting, especially considering one of your performances is what helped you achieve the status of being a Disney legend. But I'm just curious, what are also, in your mind, the particular challenges of voice acting, considering you do travel between both worlds?
You have to, for voice acting, you really have to trust the director, because he's hearing all the voices and all the lines of the other characters. You don't get to play off of anyone. And I think what I loved about doing Gremlins, Secrets of Mogwai'd, is that I am with actors that I have worked with for over 2 decades. I have people like B.D. Wong and James Hong, and it's such a lovely little family reunion in and of itself. I can hear their voices a lot of times when I'm working. I know the rhythm. And it really helps, and I think it helped Tze Chun was the director and the writer and producer of this project. There's just an easy, natural flow to creating Fong and being able to play in it.
What's one of the elements of this particular performance that you're really looking forward to people seeing and experiencing when they watch this series?
The humor, because that was what was so great about Gremlins. It wasn't just a monster movie. There were a lot of great characters, and it was funny and shocking. And that was something that was important. In fact, when I was watching some of the episodes, what didn't seem to pop out on the page really did in the animation, because there was a lot of physical comedy. And that it took me by surprise. Like I would literally laughed out loud at a couple of places. And I also jumped out of my skin at some other places. So I'm hoping that people that are going to watch it, families especially, will experience the same roller coaster ride that I did.
Well, I'm really looking forward
to the script. So there you go.
Very good. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to experiencing this as well with my 8-year-old who has not entered into the Gremlins universe yet, because some of that kind of darker comedy and some of the elements, I'm not sure. Well, given the world we live in, I think she's desensitized enough. However, I'm going to be using this series as kind of a gateway into the subsequent films as well. So really, thank you very much for your involvement on this project. I greatly appreciate it.
So she's going to experience it opposite from what we experienced. You're going to have her watch the animation first and then experience the film, which, by the way, holds up so well. It still shocked my kids when I had them watch it.
Definitely. As a matter of fact, I also have a 19-year-old who was thoroughly confused me once when she said she wanted to see the movie, with the things in the attic, and she was talking about the original Gremlins. Threw me for a little. Like, you remember that one element? That's the thing you took away from it?
Wow.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I've gone through my questions, and let me just also wrap up by telling you how much I appreciated the character that you performed on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was a series that still is near and dear to my heart, not just because of the content, but also I previously worked with Jed Whedon as well. So I tracked that show a lot, and I really think you guys brought a lot of great and amazing storylines to the Marvel Universe that I hope they do continue to develop sometime in the future.
I hope so too, Will. I miss being Agent May. When you give birth to a character like that, it's tough. It's like missing one of your kids, and I do miss her spirit. So I very much hope that she gets a chance to be revived somewhere. And please send my love to Kevin.
Will do. There we go, folks. Interviews are all done. All of the wonderful people involved in this show. Wasn't BD Wong fun? AJ was fun. Even Z was fun. One of the things I loved is that he complimented me not once, but twice on the backdrop here, which made me feel really good, because this is just a corner of an office or room in my house that I've tried to make a very curated view look as interesting and as fun as I could. So that was nice, especially when it's somebody that is the showrunner of something. So he's very attuned to the visual style of things. So I guess I'm doing something right? And BD Wong was just great. You don't see it in the interview, but unfortunately we got cut off midway and then had to recover. So that was interesting. AJ was just fun, and I love the fact that he did his interview from his recording booth, like his whisper room in his home. One of the things that I thought I always wanted, until I realized how small they are and probably how warm they get, because you don't get to run air in them. But he was a great talk as well, which, I was just looking forward to, because I don't understand how anyone can do what he does. He even brought it up in the interview where he talked about how singing was the biggest challenge. And I'm not surprised, because I did go back and I think there was a little processing on Gizmo in the movies when he's doing his lullaby, and AJ pulled it off. So hats off to him. And wasn't Ming-Na Wen just charming? Oh my gosh. Just amazing. So definitely a highlight for me, just as much it is as a highlight to watch Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai, a Max original, available now, almost all episodes streaming. You need to binge it now to be able to watch it and enjoy it when it happens either next week or the week after. Anyway, guys, I don't want to pedant any longer. I don't want to go on any longer. It's time to wrap this up. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, my name is Will, and I'll be back soon.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins signing off. I know, right? But stop being a little Nancy and deal with it. NetHeads. NetHeads. We'll be back soon.
Goodbye.
This has been a Smodco Internet production. SIP. Only at smodcast.com.